Welcome, everybody, to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. You're watching the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's Friday, April the 5th. It's Final Four weekend in college basketball. And like every Friday on our live show, I'm joined by Mr. Sean Higgs, Mr. Jesse Schule, and I'm Ross Benjamin. Thank you for joining us today, folks. We encourage you to chime in with all your questions and your comments today. On the Final Four, Major League Baseball handicapping, NBA, late season handicapping. We're going to discuss it all, and anything that you want answered or any comments you want to bring to the table, we'll be happy to discuss it with you. Sean, how are you?
Not too bad. Baseball treat me well. I'm excited. I love my baseball, and NBA playoffs right around the corner, which is good. Because this regular season nonsense, look at some of these lines. How are the Bucks laying? They're laying 17, and they're 15-15 with this head coach. And you got Toronto, who lost by 45 the other day. Just thank goodness for baseball being here. Thank goodness.
And they lost to two bad teams. They lost as double-digit favorites the last two games.
It's crazy.
If I'm not mistaken. So, Jesse, how's things in Thailand, my man?
Things are going right according to schedule, Ross. Really looking forward to these Final Four games. It's been a boon for unders bettors in the last couple rounds of the tournament, and I'm looking forward to the Final Four as well.
All right, so our sponsor site is gamblersworld.net. There you'll find us three. You'll find 7 other great handicappers as well. It's there where we guarantee our picks, folks, all single game and multi-game daily packages. All subscription plans of 30 days or fewer. If you don't win, you don't make a profit, we will credit your account back the exact amount of what you paid for that particular purchase. Also, Major League Baseball in full bloom right now, and we're going to be discussing some today. Right now at gamblersworld.net, go to the homepage, you will see 2 specials. One, you can, for $3.49, any handicapper you want to invest your money in, you'll get all his Major League Baseball picks right up until the All-Star break. And then there's also another option for the entire season at $6.99. So 2 great values there in Major League Baseball. You ask why that we're using a special up until the All-Star break, because my experience has been that a lot of you out there like to play baseball up until the All-Star break, and then it becomes vacation time and just waiting till football season begins. So now it's your opportunity. If you want to just wager on baseball in the first few months of the year, you could do so with this discounted package at $3.49. We also have our NBA still alive right now, folks. NBA winding down the regular season, playoffs coming up. And, of course, our Final Four selections from all 3 of us are posted at the website right now at gamblersworld.net. All right, Jesse, it's your time of year here. Why I say that is because you've been harping on these unders during the NCAA tournament. And what better time to seriously look at unders than in the Final Four when you're playing in a football stadium? The depth perception is way off for players in terms of what they're used to in arenas. And the defense gets a lot better at this time of year with the 4 quality teams that are left. What's your take here?
Well, I don't know if you guys have seen the chatter out there on the Twitter and in the forums and on other shows. I've seen a lot of the pundits saying that NC State hasn't really been that great defensively. They've just been lucky that Marquette, Texas Tech, and Duke couldn't hit their threes. They were all wide open shots. And, their luck's going to run out here against Purdue. Purdue's going to shoot out the lights from beyond the arc. And these guys that are saying this don't even mention the venue, don't even acknowledge that it's a football stadium. I don't even think they're aware of it. And I think it's a little naive to suggest that, Marquette going 4 of 31, there could be a bit of luck involved there. And I'm sure Duke missed some wide open threes, but I don't think that you hold Duke, Texas Tech, and Marquette to a combined 18% from beyond the arc unless you're playing pretty good defense. Do I expect the trend of low-scoring games to continue in the Final Four? I certainly do, Ross.
Yeah, so two things here. I mean, where it's going to affect the shooting in terms of depth perception, Sean, is from the free throw line, which is always your favorite topic, and of course on 3-point shooting, because depth perception is not going to affect you on mid-range jumpers or layups or anything of that nature. So, Sean, even your free throw percentage would dip below 90%. If you had to deal with that kind of depth perception. Don't you agree?
21 to 33 at 64% for Purdue last game. So we want to talk about the whole arena, and Purdue has known to miss a couple threes. Not 3 of 15 last game. So what are they all of a sudden going to come in and start hitting well? They've gone on quite a few bad stretches. So I'm with Jesse on these unders. I mean, I'm for this game here though, I don't know. I want to take the points, but somehow I just think Purdue wins. I don't know. I haven't bet this game, believe it or not. Normally I'm chomping at the bit to get down on games. Both of these matchups I've yet to lay $1 down on. Although,
what do you think of the first half, though, Sean? You said you're tempted to take the points. I just booked NC State 5.5 for the first half. And the reason I gave was I'm worried they get in foul trouble. I mean, Edey went to the line 22 times in the last game.
Yeah.
He's probably going to get the calls. They could get a couple guys fouled out in the second half, and things could get away from them. So I chose to look at the first half if you're going to take the points.
Yeah. I mean, I'd lean that way. I'm not a huge first half kind of better when it comes to college hoops or even baseball, like a first five kind of guy. Again, this is a tough one here. I mean, Edey had a bad shooting day, usually around 70% from the line, but if you're going to send the line that many times, especially on tic-tac, but is this going to be a spot where we're talking about how the Lakers and their foul calls? Is this a spot where now the refs are going to be like, oh, wait, we can't foul this guy every second, but the guy who's defending him, Hicks, is a monster. He's like, 290-pound guy. Is he going to
DJ Burns?
Burns. Is he going to be a little baby fouls, right? Is it going to look worse than it is because as big as he is?
Well, he's been in foul trouble in a couple NCAA tournament games. He's had to sit with 4 fouls early. My question is to you, Jesse. When you're talking about DJ Burns and him getting into foul trouble, he really hasn't look, he's faced guys his height, and he's been able to dominate because he's got terrific feet and mobility for a guy his size, and B, he's able to muscle guys at his size because he goes 290 as opposed to somebody he's going up against probably averaging around 240 to 250. That's not going to be the case with Zach Edey. He's going to be facing a guy that's 5 inches taller than him at the very least and equal weight. So he's not going to be able to muscle him. He's not going to be able to those moves with his feet and all those kind of stuff. I'm not so sure he's going to be as effective in this game as he has been. And the key to me, Jesse, is any of the other guys going to be able to contribute and pick up the slack? And they've shown they could do that. So what's your take there?
Yeah, I think Edey's going to be a problem. I think Edey's going to get his. He's coming off of a 40-point game, and like Sean said, he didn't even shoot that well from the free throw line. But that size advantage is too much to overcome. But for me, 5.5 points for the first half. We did see. I mean, Tennessee was able to hang with them for a half. In fact, Tennessee was up. They had a pretty significant lead with a few minutes to go in the half and sort of blew it. I expect the game to start off slow and be close in the beginning. Whether or not NC State can hang on remains to be seen. But, I think Edey's going to be a problem. I don't see anybody stopping him. Maybe Klingen in the final if they make it there.
Those are going to be 2 NBA players going at it if that matchup does come to fruition. I really like Klingen. I actually like him as an NBA player much more than Zach Edey, believe it or not. But that's just my own personal opinion. If somebody makes an argument on the other side of that, you won't get a lot of fight back from me on that because, I could see why somebody would like Edey more as well. But at the end of the day, in terms of these guys or these people making these comments in the forums that Jesse's referring to about teams missing wide open threes against NC State, it's almost you have to ask yourself, do they have a point here, Sean, or are they just trying to make a case for because they like Purdue? Having said that, the other side of the equation is Purdue is one of the best if not the best 3-point shooting team percentage-wise in the nation. So go ahead.
And then it comes down to, again, I was against NC State in game 1 for the tournament here, just because how they got there. You beat Duke, last-second win over that overtime game. Who was that? Virginia, crazy bank, to even get here. Then a big win over North Carolina. And then they kept winning. And then you think, okay, well, the bell's going to hit midnight. The clock strikes midnight and you're gone. But eventually you got to give them a little credit, no? Like there has to be a little bit of they're playing pretty good. And again, this is what's, as much as we talk about Burns, I mean, Horn's actually leading them in scoring during their tournaments here. And the other guy, the other big cat, Darrow, whatever, I mean, he's got averaging more rebounds than, but it's the whole story of them. Like, oh, look at this guy, and
it's not one guy, no doubt about it.
Someone else has been stepping up for him. You got to give them credit. I mean, I will. I didn't see them coming this far. I was like, oh no, I didn't see them go in game 1, game 2, and here they are. And here they are against the team. And this is where the ghost of past come up for Purdue. Yeah, as good as they're shooting threes. Last game they didn't shoot good. They didn't shoot good last game. They were bad. And they managed to pull it out, and maybe that gets them over the hump. But we're better. It could be close, but we know we're better on each point on the court here. We should beat you. But it's tough. This is a tough game. Like, you want to go for NC State. Everything's going right for them. The defense is there. You can't make fun of. Give them some credit, please. Yes, everybody's shooting in the same place. They're shooting in the same place. Why are they shooting better than the other team?
Yeah. Raise your hand if you had NC State or predicted that NC State was going to go this far when they ended the regular season 17-14. Now I'm going to respectfully tell you to put it down because you're a damn liar. All right. Anyway.
I got a follow-up point, Ross.
Okay.
Do you guys think it would be fair to say that teams that play elite defensive teams, so if your opponent is an elite defense, often you struggle from the free throw line when you're matched up against when you're playing a low scoring defensive battle against a great defensive team, and you shoot poorly from the free throw line, even though nobody's playing defense while you're shooting from the free throw line. Does that make sense to you guys?
I don't get the correlation. No, I mean, Sean made.
You don't think that's true?
I look at. I don't have an opinion one way or the other, but off the top of my head, explain to me why logically that would occur.
No, because I guess you're so fatigued and you're having to fight so hard for every possession in one of the, let's talk in NBA terms. If it's one of these like 88 to 89 games where it's fighting and clawing for every possession, like 90s style basketball, you're so exhausted by the time you get to the line, and your buckets have been so hard to come by that it affects your free throw shooting. I mean, it's something that I've noticed in those type of games, guys miss more free throws. Now, if that is true, then you have to say, well, when they say that NC State's opponents are missing open shots, maybe they're missing open shots because they're having to fight so hard for every shot they get that by the time they get an open shot, they're just exhausted and they don't have their legs.
See, that's definitely a good point, Jesse. And I think you can couple that with the fact that NC State's opponents have been playing from behind late in games. And most times they're the favorites. They've been an underdog 7 or 9 wins in the postseason. So I think some of it has to do with the fact with pressure. You're in a one and done situation. You're supposed to be the favorite in the game. It's late in the game or it's in the second half and you start to press. And what do they say when you're in a baseball slump, Sean? You squeeze the bat too tight. The same thing could be said for that. So, yeah, I agree with you, Jesse, and what you're saying there. Your logic is sound. And I think you can couple that with what I just said. And that's the reason why. Now, Whether Purdue gets affected by that, I don't know. I think, I want to see how they defend a 3 if they're playing from behind NC State. And I know that sounds a little absurd, but what I mean by that is there's not as much pressure on the team that's the favorite in this game. I will tell you this. This is very unusual, guys. Since 2013, there's been only 3 teams in a Final Four matchup that has been a favorite of 9 or more. And we got 2 of them this year. So, again, let's look at the other game, Alabama in UConn. And I know my 2 buddies here, I'm going to hear this, and let me get it out of the way quick. Sean came up with this saying, I don't want to step in front of a team like UConn, meaning anybody who's real hot like that. And Jesse, as always, has picked up that innuendo and that saying and has used it extensively even when Sean's not around now. So
I think you'll find that me and Sean are not alone. You talk to any cat in any pub anywhere in the United States, and there's not too many people that are dying to step in front of UConn right now.
Yeah. I haven't been in a pub lately, but when I was, I never heard that saying up until a couple days ago. So I guess we always get these sayings and they catch on and all that. But Jesse, not for nothing. Sean can say horseshoe, and you would use the word horseshoe for the next week.
They're 35-3. It's like Purdue. They're 33. People forget the losses.
Yeah.
But again, you look at that number, you're like, I almost want to take Alabama because I don't think they're going to go. Again, this is where I kind of like the UConn team total over, because they're going to score 70 just by accident. They're going to get 75, 80 points. That's how they play. If Alabama makes their threes, they're not going to run at that big guy, the Klingons or whoever that guy is in the middle. Like
it's Star Trek.
The Star Trek, right? Was this Star Trek? Right? or is that Mork from Mork? Nanu. I don't even know. I'm a Star Wars guy.
It's Klingon is his name, but anyway,
they're not going to just try to do layups. They're going to shoot threes. That's how you score 90 points a game like they have all season. That's not from just, hey, we're gonna score layups. No, they're going to shoot threes. So if they're falling, UConn could get upset because team gets hot from 3. Watch out. I want to take it. I do want to take those points. I do. I know it's going to be like, well, they play no defense. It's tough taking a team plays no defense in a championship game. And by any sense of the word, any game in a tournament is a championship game. It's one and done. You either win it or you're home. So, hey, I want to take the points, but my heart's saying the smarter play, I should say, would be the Connecticut team total over.
So the Klingon over there has given his opinion. Now we're going to turn it over to Captain Kirk, Jesse, and he's going to voice his opinion on and his take.
I don't know these guys' names. I thought it was DJ Hicks, but the guy is Horns.
Yeah, I always say
it's Horn, not Hicks. It's Burns.
Who's on both sides of the ball. I'm out to beat the number, man.
I push them together.
You worry about names, people. Play fantasy. Anyway, go ahead, Jesse. Tell us what you think about this Alabama UConn matchup without showing your hand.
Okay, well, we talked about the football stadium, State Farm Arena in Arizona, and I don't know about you guys. I've been trying to do my research on this venue. It's very difficult to actually get data on the phenomenon of the depth perception in the football stadiums. I know and I'm aware that it does affect the shooters, but it's hard to actually get concrete data on it. I wish I had some available to me. I'm going to continue to look for it. But yeah, I think if you're going into this game and your one hope is you're going to get hot from beyond the arc in a football stadium against a team that just shut down a 30-0 run against the most efficient offense in the country. Wasn't Illinois number 1 efficiency ranking in the country? It was 55 minutes of real time, so you could have literally driven your car to Papa John's, ordered a pizza, sat there, drank a beer, waited for them to cook it, drive it back home. You wouldn't have missed an Illinois bucket.
We could have beamed you up, Scotty, to another planet. Anyway, Jesse, let me ask you this. Let's just make it simple and say, yes, it does affect shooters in the tournament when they have to adapt to a stadium environment, which for the most part is just the Final Four. And they have to deal with depth perception they haven't had to deal with all year. Let's think about this. UConn was in the Final Four last year. They played in this type of environment. Is that an edge for them in this game as compared to even a dynamic offensive team like Alabama, who, by the way, 49% of their field goal attempts come from three-point range?
I mean, you're asking me if that's an edge for UConn. All I see, Ross, is edges for UConn.
You don't want to step in front of them. Yeah,
that's all I see. It's just, I mean, they're better at everything to me. And the three-point shooting, I mean, what happens if you go out and you're one for 10? Do you keep firing away? Yeah. Do you change your strategy? I mean, what happens then?
They're firing away.
I like Sean's logic of going over with UConn because, see, Alabama is very good. They're very good, no matter who the opponent is, of speeding their opponent up. And as a result, they're going to give up a lot of easy opportunities. Like I've been saying right along, using the boxing analogy. When you got a big puncher, if you watched in the old days, Ernie Shavers, for example, he would take 3 shots that land 1, you know, and he would be effective in doing so. And Alabama will give up a few easy opportunities by pressuring defensively so they could speed the game up. Having said that, I don't think UConn's going to be affected. I just see UConn. I know they like to play at a slower pace, Sean, you know, but by the same token, they have enough talent and depth on that team to play any style you want to play at and be effective, you know. I think a lot of the slowdown style that they, you know, when you look at the analytics at KenPom, a lot of that is because they got the lead and they dictate pace. I mean, your thoughts?
Well, let's look at their scores in the tournament, the Big East, and here. 87, 95, 73, 91, 75, 82, 77. I mean, if that's slowing down when you're giving up 52, 52, 58, 52, 57. I mean,
they're extremely efficient.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between being a high-scoring team and
exactly. But if you're that efficient playing at a snail's pace, you don't think you're going to be able. Oh, you want us to play basketball now?
I agree. I wasn't stepping in front of you.
Oh, no. I agree with you. No, I was just doubling down on that. I'm like, those are their points versus teams that are putting up 50 points a game. They're scoring high 70s. So Alabama's going to want to shoot the 3, and then what? Then we got long rebounds. Easy 2s the other way, and then come down and do the same thing again, or another fast break. I think. Why do I think Alabama's going to keep this close? I liked Alabama last week. I had them. I think they're going to hit some of these 3s. And granted, it's a bigger place, but this is Alabama. They've been in SEC tournaments. I mean, obviously, UConn plays in MSG all the time, so they're kind of used to playing this thing. They've won last year where they won 10 straight tournament games, whatever the case may be. So I don't think it's going to affect this game as much.
Yeah.
I mean,
Clinton is a dominating defensive force.
The other game, yes, because those teams play a little more defense, and they've had some poor shooting games, both sides, offensively and defensively for both.
I think
both
Klingon can block a shot from the upper deck in that stadium in Arizona, and it wouldn't be goaltending. I mean, the guy is just a defensive force to the nth degree, and I guess the opposite side of that argument, Jesse, would be, well, yeah, that's fine and dandy against a team that depends on throwing the ball down low a lot. That's not the case with Alabama. They're a 3-point shooting team and a slashing type team. But any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this game has pace war written all over it. You mentioned Alabama is good at speeding teams up. Obviously, UConn's pretty good at slowing teams down. Yep. If I'm Hurley, I'm thinking that Alabama's only chance is to be able to speed this game up. So if I'm the coach of UConn, I'm thinking I'm going to do everything in my power to slow it down because my team's going to get more stops. I
don't think Hurley. Again, I got to respectfully disagree with you, Jesse. I don't think Hurley's thinking that at all. I'm thinking Hurley's thinking he's got the better team. He's got more depth. He's got more size. And if they want to play fast, we'll play fast. And instead of winning by 10 or 15, we're going to win by 30. That's what I think UConn is right now. I don't think they're going to be scared of playing any type of pace you throw their way. And again, if Alabama succeeds at speeding up the pace, I don't see that how that increases their chances of winning the game. Here's the reason why I think Alabama could stay in this game, stay close, and if they even have a remote chance of a possible upset, they're going to have to shoot a very high percentage of threes, and they're going to have to shoot even more than the 49% of their free or field goal attempts that are threes on average for the season. They're going to probably have to be more like in the 55% range in terms of volume, and probably around 45% from three. And then they're going to have to get to the free throw line. And then they're going to have to be more disciplined defensively than they showed all year. Because, guys, if you look at Alabama, part of how they speed the tempo up is they play aggressive defense. And in doing so, they give up easy baskets, like I said, and they also foul a lot. You look at, they're amongst the worst teams in the country in terms of sending the opposition to the free throw line. So, again, and then they're going to, okay, if that happens, there's another factor. UConn, if you can get them to shoot 70% or less, you got a chance from the free throw line. That's a team that I believe shoots around 78% from the line, one of the best in the country. They're not Villanova.
Seems like you're asking for a lot for a lot of things having to go right for Alabama.
Right, right. And we've seen it happen before, though, Jesse. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We've seen stranger things happen before, and they're in the Final Four for a reason. I know myself. I'll admit it. I said it from the beginning of the tournament, and I think you guys concurred with me. None of us really, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I don't want to speak for you guys, but our feeling was early on was I can't see Alabama making a deep run. I can't predict the team to make a deep run and play such lousy defense, and here they are.
Yep.
Sean?
That being said, their defense has been a little bit better in the – I mean, they haven't been as bad defensively.
Yeah, I mean, their numbers in the tournament have been much better than they have over the regular season, okay? So, they held Grand Canyon to 61 points. But here this
Grand Canyon.
Yeah, UConn is not Grand Canyon. All right, let's get to some questions. If I can get my owner and my producer here to pop some questions up for us, we'll get to some of you guys, and then we'll filter in some baseball talk if you'd like, or some NBA talk, whatever you prefer, guys. All right, let's get to the questions. Love you guys, best in the business. Let's go. Lonnie, we appreciate you, man, and those are some very kind words, and we take that. We don't take that lightly. Leg Show, my man, was Avila doing his John Starks game impersonation last night? Yeah, he was. I don't know, man. He was shooting some awful quick threes when they were up 7 late in the game. I wasn't a big fan because I had Indiana State -3 last night. And for those of you who didn't watch it, Indiana State was leading 77-70 with less than 3 minutes to go. And this cat Avila, who looks like a nerd of the nth degree, but he's a great player, decided he was going to win the game on his own for Indiana State by taking threes and not using any of the shot clock with a big lead down late. And lo and behold, I think he went 0 for 3 down the stretch. Any thoughts, Jesse?
I didn't watch the game. I just saw the clip of the final shot attempts, and it was a comedy of errors. It was amusing to watch them try to get shots off in the final seconds.
I mean, he was the guy Conwell. Nobody's talking 1 of 9, 1 of 10 from the field, 1 of 9 from 3.
He made a big 3 down the stretch.
That's the only shot he made all game.
Yeah. So, I mean, but Sean, they had that game. They were up 77-70, less than 3 minutes to go.
That's a game you should win.
You got to win that game when you're a quality team like them, and give Seton Hall a lot of credit. Kadari Richmond, I got to wonder what my folks in Syracuse are thinking, letting that kid get away, because he's a pro player, man. Strong, size, great handle, and plays terrific defense. He was the one, he even blocked that 3 in the last final seconds. That one guy who tried the 3 that got blocked, that was him to block the 3. All right, next question. Bama, Connecticut under 165 is the best play in that game. Yeah, pound it. You would think, but Jesse, you're the under guy.
I mean, that's a pretty high number for a UConn team that holds the most efficient offense in the country, scoreless for 55 minutes of real time. So I'm going to agree with pound it.
Yeah, and also the fact that if you look at the history of the NCAA tournament and you look at totals this high, or even totals in general, when you get down to the Final Four and championship games, more times than not, they play under. Sean, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, 161.5. Again, we just talked about Alabama having the offensive ability, but haven't been that bad. And again, if they're missing their threes here, this is going to be a 75-60 game. It's going to sail by 20 under this total, Yeah. So, yeah.
This game, there's going to be a lot of danger zones for Alabama early on here if they don't get off to a good start. And what I mean by that, if they're not hitting their threes and the way they play better defense in the tournament, but Connecticut is so good offensively, and you send them to the free throw line, and they're very good from the free throw.
With in-gaming now, Ross, like this is a spot you can kind of sit back and be like, all right, is Alabama making their shots? No, let's just jump on this under because it's,
Or you could jump on UConn, I'm torn. Like you said, this game is tough when it comes to the side because you're talking 11.5, and part of you, like you said, Sean, wants to take Alabama, but the other part of you is saying, to coin you and Jesse's phrase, you don't want to step in front of UConn kind of thing.
You got two teams no one had in the Final Four, and you have two teams who thought they were going to be in the Final Four in the championship game versus Houston.
Well, Ross, we talked about the pace of play and the potential for a pace war. And certainly if this game gets out of hand early, you mentioned that UConn would be content to play fast with Alabama, but I don't think so. After they're up 20, there's no real reason to do that, right? It's time to shut her down and slow her down once they seize control of the game, I think.
Yeah, so we use the Star Trek method here, and we froze Sean up because he's talking too much.
He's talking too much.
So he's now in Klingon state. Anyway, how do you guys think the coach's familiarity and the travel delays affect the game? The travel delays with UConn, I would be more inclined to say if they got there 24 hours in advance, or were planning on getting there 24 hours in advance, it would affect them more. But 48 hours in advance, instead of getting there 11 o'clock at night, you got there at 6 in the morning. Certainly that's going to throw your biological clock off, But at this stage, I think the coaches adapt. And in this stage, Jesse, where you have these trainers that are well in tune with how much rest players need and nutrition and all that, things of that variety, certainly didn't help the cause. But do I think it will have any effect in how they play on Saturday night at 6 o'clock Eastern time? I don't think so, Jess.
Well, I mean, these are 19, 20-year-old kids. Once you get to the NBA, you're 35 years old. You're playing on back-to-back nights. You're flying from New York to LA. I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, when I was a 20-year-old kid, I was playing hard till 6 in the morning and then playing hard the next night again. So, but I wasn't playing basketball. That's a difference. Anyway, hey, Ross. Hey, Tim, how are you, my man? Glad you could join us today, buddy. Appreciate you, brother. All right, next. Can I get a roll tide? Roll tide. Well, he just wants a roll tide, Jesse. You don't have to.
No way.
You're appeasing somebody. You're not making a pick, my man. Nobody.
I already have established my relationship on this show with SEC fans, and I can't put that in jeopardy.
All right. Anyway, Bravo Commander 21, Seton Hall +4. Love it. Yeah, you have to love it now. The game is over.
Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
Was in. So, yeah, but thank you, Brandon Commander. We appreciate you. Palmer comes back in. I watched most to all of your videos, not for the picks, but because you guys give out great info. Just saying, keep up the good job on the game breakdowns. Example is Monday, Ross and Doug. Great info. I appreciate that, Pound. And I'm glad you said that because, too many times, we've gone over this before, Jesse, where too many times people put major emphasis on the free picks we're giving out. And then they get offended when we say, well, these aren't our best picks, but we still want to win. And I always say, the innuendo I always use is I want to make you a smarter sports better today than you were yesterday. That goes for any of us. And in order for that to happen, it's almost like I can give you the answers to the test and you're going to get an A. But the next time they put a test in front of you and I'm not there to give you the answers, did you listen to how I arrived at those answers? Because even though you might not have passed that test that time, you could put that in your memory bank that over the course of time, you pass more tests than you do by following these types of methods and strategies. Jesse?
Give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish, feed him for a lifetime is the expression I think we're looking for. And you probably saw my comment on you and Doug's video, and I meant every word of it.
Yep.
I think it's foolish to not to learn from guys that have been around longer than you, and not just in sports betting, but in life as a man. You coming up from teenager through your younger adulthood. If you're not learning from the experience of people who have been around longer than you, you're really robbing yourself of an opportunity to do so. So I've always decided to put my ego aside, because you sort of have to put your ego aside in order to learn from other people and realize that you don't know everything. There's always something more to learn. So when guys like you and Doug that have been around for a decade or two longer than myself, if I'm not learning from you, it would be a mistake for me to not seize that opportunity to learn from.
I appreciate that, Jess. And I will tell you this too. Guys like me and Doug, and I know Doug, I could speak for him in this regard. We listen to the younger guys too. And look, we might not always agree, but when somebody has a valid point, you've heard me do it with you and Sean, okay? When you guys have a valid point, I'll come out and say, you know what? I never thought of it from that perspective. And the minute you think you know it all, I don't care how old or young you are, is the minute you become stale, the minute you don't progress forward, and the minute you don't get any better. So again,
it's impossible to know it all, Ross, because it's constantly evolving, right? So you have to be constantly adapting your methods, finding a niche where you can exploit an opportunity and find those new opportunities on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. So I don't believe in the concept of having it all figured out in sports betting.
Niche, not niche. Niche. Niche.
Tomato.
Is my sister's daughter, Niche. Anyway, Tim Madden says, any thoughts on the women Final Four? You know what, Tim? I've been watching it, but I don't speak on anything that I haven't followed to a degree where I can't speak about it intelligently and help. My comments are not going to help out any of my viewers in that regard. But Jesse, if you have anything to add in terms of the women's Final Four, other than the fact that I think I'm very pleased to see the growth of the women's game and the quality of the women's game as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest. I don't follow it that closely. I got to admit it. I haven't sat down and watched a women's game from start to finish, but I'm interested. I mean, you see some of those, the shooting from Caitlin Clark is pretty impressive. Yep. Angel Reese is certainly an elite trash talker. And I did share a meme on Twitter with the Angel Reese placing the crown on the bench while Caitlin Clark was warming up pregame for that Final Four game or whatever it was. And then the end of the game, Angel Reese not so happy in the post-game presser.
And I found Paul Pierce's, and I don't want to get into the specifics, but Paul Pierce's comments that he made in regards to that matchup. And I think a lot of you out there know what I'm talking about. If you care to chime in on it, I'll comment on it. But I am not going to start a fire here in a forest. But I think that his comments were insensitive, and I think his comments were controversial, and I quite frankly thought his comments were ignorant. But in any event, let's move on. Next question. Hello out there. I guess we don't have a question. If you're gonna bet Iowa, you better take them on the money line. All right. Well, point duly noted. Bravo. Duly noted. All right. Next question, please. I've been sports betting for almost 20 years, and I'm always looking to learn. I learned from Crackman on props, Sean on dog play angles. No matter what, always willing to learn. Yeah, well, Poundy, I've said it on numerous occasions that I've been doing this long enough. When somebody chimes in and does so and gives me a big enough sample size, I know when somebody's pretty astute at what they're talking about in the world of sports betting, and you certainly qualify in that regard. And it goes right along with me and Jesse just said that, you never know too much. Now, there's a lot of guys that might chime in a lot and give me a big sample size where I know they don't know what they're talking about and don't have a clue of what they're saying. But, I'll be respectful because they're watching the show. But by the same token, it's a matter of listening to people that you followed and with a larger sample size have found that what they're saying makes a lot of sense. And you, in any field, when that occurs, you'd be foolish not to at least listen. And if not dabble into exactly what they're saying, at least keep an eye on what they're saying. So if that makes sense. All right, next. I don't know where Sean is. We lost him. Hopefully he'll be back. Any value?
I heard from him on Twitter. He's dealing with a power outage, so he might be done for the day.
Okay. That's too bad because Sean is an integral part of our show. I give him a hard time, but certainly we enjoy having him with us in his perspectives and his comments. Any value in player props? I'm not a player prop guy. Tim, again, this is an area where Doug Upstone is really good at. Jesse, I'm not sure. I know that you get into player props in football, but in basketball, I haven't really heard you make much money. Do you?
Especially in the NBA playoffs. It's difficult during the NBA regular season because you never know who's going to play. But yeah. I do have an opinion on tonight's game between the Warriors and the Mavs, and I just think under for Steph Curry, PRA, points, all his performance total unders. I'm assuming he's either going to be rested or he's going to play limited minutes. There was a controversy about a week ago where Steve Kerr benched Curry in the fourth quarter because he wanted to limit his minutes, didn't want all that wear and tear. And it's a massive letdown spot in Dallas tonight for the Warriors because they won 133-110 last night against Houston, and Houston was the team they were battling for that final play-in spot. So essentially they've just locked in that final playoff, not technically, but for all intents and purposes, they've locked in that play-in spot. Now it's the second game of a back-to-back, third game in 4 nights. We have Kerr on record saying he's looking to rest Curry and limit, and specifically by putting limits on his minutes. So I think it's worth having a look. And if he doesn't play with the player props, if he doesn't play and you're betting unders, well, it's just a no bet. So you don't get hurt by that. The only way you get hurt is if he plays 35 minutes and goes over his numbers. But I would presume if he plays at all tonight, it'll be in the 20-minute range.
Yeah, I've been saying this cast the props subject aside, but I've been saying this in videos on another channel, which I'm not going to mention for, it's not in our sponsor's best interest. But I've been saying that NBA games down the final stretch here of the regular season, try to focus on games that involve 2 teams that are playoff bound, and it means something. Now, Golden State is playoff bound because, like Jesse said, they won last night, and for all intents and purposes, they're in. Unless something unforeseen happens, mathematically, they haven't clinched yet, but it would take a lot for them to lose out and somebody else to win out for them to, I'm assuming Houston to win out for them to lose that spot. They're also probably, and again, I would have to look at the standings, and Jesse, you might notice off the top of your head.
Yeah, barring what you just said, them losing out or winning out, there's not going to be a lot of movement for them. They can't really move up or down.
And my follow-up was going to be, and they can't get up to number 8 either, most likely, right? So you're looking at a 9 versus 10 game. I guess if I don't know how close they are to the number 9 seed. I haven't followed that too often, lately. But if they have a shot at the number 9 seed, that would be one thing. But if they're pretty much locked into a number 10 seed, they're playoff bound. Now, when I say concentrate on 2 teams that are playoff bound and have a lot at stake and are meaningful games, pretty much at this point, Golden State, the rest of the regular season, barring, like we just said, the circumstances where they lose out and Houston wins out, it's not going to be real meaningful for them. Now, that may change. I might be speaking out of turn because there's a big difference between finishing 9 and 10. Okay, because 9, you're going to get the home court advantage against the 10, and whoever wins that game moves on, and whoever loses that game is out. And what I mean about moving on is then they're going to have to play the loser of the 7 versus 8. So there is some circumstances there. I mean, there's been a couple examples I've used the last couple nights where it's been 2. For example, the Clippers in Denver last night. Denver is tied for the top seat in the Western Conference. The Clippers are trying to hold on to the number 4 seed. They have a 1-game lead for the 4 seed, which will determine who gets home court advantage in a 4 versus 5 in the first round. So I hope that all makes sense. Off topic, what do you guys think of the Lakers' chances making a run at the championship? I mean, anytime you got LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you're going to have a chance. I mean, last year they showed they came out of the play-in tournament, got to the conference final, right? So there's a big difference, though, getting to the conference final and talking about winning your play-in and then winning 3 series to get to the finals and then actually beating the best team out of the East, which on all likelihood or the probability right now sides with the Boston Celtics. Can you realistically, in your mind, let's just take it for granted, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes that are fans of other teams in the East. Let's just say Boston gets to the finals. Do you really think the Lakers could beat Boston in the finals? Is how I would answer that question. Jesse?
I don't think the Lakers can beat Denver in the conference finals.
Right.
I personally think that Denver is still the team to beat. I think Denver can beat Boston. I'm going to say that right now.
Yeah, I think there's several teams in the West that could beat the Lakers, okay, without even getting to Boston.
But I like the Lakers' chances of getting to the conference finals, though, if it works out where it's a conference finals rematch. But I guess they likely could play Denver in the first round, and then they'd be – so, yeah, if they play Denver in the first round, then I would say the Lakers have no chance. But I like them. I like them against almost everybody else. Just the way they're playing. I know they're going to get the calls. You look at that first or second round series against Golden State last year, and the amount of the. I know you're not going to like this, Ross. I wish Sean was here to back me up, but the free throw disparity in that series versus Golden State was sickening, and it's been sickening all year, and expect it to continue in the playoffs. But, yeah, they're not getting past Denver no matter what happens.
If you want a sleeper in the West, I'd take a look at the Dallas Mavericks. They're playing awfully well right now. And when you got a player the level of Doncic and also Irving, the way he's playing right now and healthy, they could be a tough out for anybody in the West. So keep an eye on that. All right, next question if we can, fellas. Who do you think is the number 2 pick in the NFL draft? You know what? I can care less, but Jesse, you have any thoughts on that?
I have no idea who the number 2 pick in the NFL draft is, but I got a fairly good idea that I can bench press more than he can.
Anyway, if you're not familiar with why he's saying that, Jesse has a video that he places up on occasion, and he bench pressed 225 25 times. And when Derrick Henry got drafted in the first round as a rookie, Jesse outdid him in that regard. And we all know what a beast that Derrick Henry is.
I have to correct you, Ross. I wanted to smash Derrick Henry's bench press record, but that was the one that always eluded me. The guys I beat were George Kittle.
Okay.
There's a long list of guys like George Kittle, tough running backs and tight ends that you consider as, beasts in the NFL that I did outdo their score. But 25 it's an awful lot for, I'm only 5'8", 250 pounds. So it's 25 times with 225 pounds is quite difficult. But like I said, Derrick Henry did it 22 times. That was his score. Kittle and a lot of these other guys were in the 17, 16, 18. McCaffrey only did it 10, and I 19, I believe, is my official record.
So Jesse, if you want to, if we could ever pit Jesse up against one of these draft choices and put a line on it, I think he would be a hell of an underdog pick, guys. Anyway,
as long as he's not a lineman or a linebacker, I don't compete in the weight room against the linemen and the linebackers.
Okay, there you have it. There's a man that's always humble. In any event, next question, please, guys, if you kindly can. And I love Houston's over and under. It was only 31.5 this year. Atlanta was 41.5. They're not going to get there. Again, Bravo, you're and I really appreciate you coming on the show and watching the show, but you got to stop with the comments where we already know results and you like the result that came in positive. It doesn't do anybody any good. It's called, what I call that is result betting. I don't want to stop you from making any comments, and we certainly appreciate you, but if you could refrain from that, because it's just not in good taste.
He's got some comments coming up that are predicting the future instead of revisiting the past.
I live with. I appreciate that, and I hope you don't take any disrespect by that. It's just making better for the quality of the program. All right, next question, please, if we can. And we're waiting on a question, but until then, Major League Baseball, early season Major League Baseball handicapping. Anybody out there want to make any? I know myself, Jesse, I dabble very lightly because I'm a data-driven guy when it comes to Major League Baseball handicapping. You could go by past starting pitching results, etc., but there's not a lot to go on early. You're getting a lot of changeover in terms of personnel from team to team. And sometimes it makes it a little more difficult. What I do like to look at early on is games or lines that don't make sense. If you see something that doesn't make sense, that should capture. I would also tell you guys, especially early on, is if you haven't done so already, you need to start utilizing the first 5 inning bets. Because they're in this day and age with the specialization in pitching, in starters very rarely going beyond the 6th inning. If you could find a starting pitching matchup and a good betting value in the first 5 innings, even if you have to lay a half a run, that's would be my advice as far as early season handicapping and what to look for in Major League Baseball. If we can kindly get a question up, it would be great. If not, Jesse, any thoughts?
I agree with what you're saying about the 5 innings, especially if you're handicapping pitching. If you're one of these guys, which I'm not, I'm one of these guys. I like to bet on certain pitchers. So there's certain starters out there that I like to ride or fade. So even if it's an ace that I want to bet on, or a 4th or 5th starter that I want to bet against, he's probably only going to be, if I'm betting against him, I'm hoping he's only going to be in the game for an inning or two. And if I'm betting on him, he's probably 5-6 innings max. So, betting the full 9 makes no sense if that's the reasoning behind your bet. I'm fully on board with the 5 innings in baseball. And I would also encourage people to look more at run line underdogs. I know it's not everybody agrees with that, but I've done quite well with run line underdogs in baseball over the years.
Yeah, it's probably the least utilized option that people use when it comes to Major League Baseball. I mean, run line favorites are a popular option because you could take a 170, 180 and get even money or plus money. But more times than not, even when you're taking a money line underdog and you're getting plus 1.5, you're laying juice. So, Jesse brings up a good point. I'm not a big proponent of it unless you can get a good number, but that's me. Anyway, the Rangers' chances of winning the Cup, I would think they're as good as anybody right now. I mean, look at it, especially if they get the number 1 seed in the East. and they have home ice advantage. And when you have a goaltender the caliber of what they have, it's all about goaltending a lot of times during the Stanley Cup playoffs. Jesse?
I think he might have been talking about the Texas Rangers, but
he had the Stanley Cup up there, I believe.
I know, but he had the same thing for the Lakers when he asked that question.
Okay.
Right?
Well, if it's the Texas Rangers, yeah, it's tough to repeat Major League Baseball. And look, a lot of things went right for Texas last year. There's still a very potent offense. I would have to see how their pitching develops. I was not a big Texas fan last year. As a matter of fact, I thought they would be an early out because of their bullpen. But all of a sudden, when it came to playoff time, their bullpen was like night and day compared to what they were during the regular season, Jesse, So, again, there's always going to be some teams that get off to a good start that we might jump on early on as big underdogs in terms of their futures. And I would be real careful of that. But in terms of the Rangers, Jesse, any thoughts?
I think it's too early for me to give an opinion on the Texas Rangers, but I certainly agree with your statement about the New York Rangers. But I mean, hockey, there's so much parity in hockey that, almost every team that makes the playoffs has a shot. There might be a few that have questionable goaltending, but if you've got good goaltending and,
which they do.
Yeah. So anybody with good goaltending has got a shot. So I want to field a question from Tommy Salmons, who asked a question. Oh, they're on it.
Go ahead, Jesse. You take it.
Well, yeah, I just noticed that he had said that we'd skipped over his question, but I like to play 3-team round-robin parlays by twos. Do you consider that a sucker's bet?
No.
I like the fact that you can still make money on winning 2 of 3 games.
Right.
If you're betting 1 to 10 or better.
A round robin to me, and I'll let you answer this, Jesse. A round robin to me is only a sucker bet if you played a 3-teamer in there, because now even if you hit 2 out of 3, you're taking a loss. Okay, but if you're playing a round robin, and I'm not a parlay proponent, and I can tell you when I dabble into round robins, it's when I'm on a good streak. Okay, and I have 3 games in a day, I will put maybe 20% of what I normally play on a flat bet on a 3x2 or 2x3. I'm sorry. And again, if you hit 2 out of 3, you still make a small profit. If you win all 3, you won all 3 of your straight bets, and you hit the jackpot because you had 3 2-teamers as well. But Jesse, go ahead.
Okay, my opinions on parlays. I only want to bet on correlating parlays, and the example of that would be underdogs and the under, favorites and the over. For example, let's say one of my strategies in college football season is weather unders. You get advanced weather reports a week in advance. You can see hurricane seasons coming in. There's going to be tons of wind and rain in the coastal cities, and you bet the underdog, big underdogs like plus 20 points or 18 points, and unders in games that are where the total is going to drop 10 points as soon as everybody is wise to the weather, inclement weather. Underdogs parlayed with under. It's a correlating event, right? You have to score a certain amount of points to cover a certain amount of points. And I see value in that. And then when it comes to round robins, my experience with round robins comes from when I was a young guy in Canada betting on the hockey playoffs. We used to have a sports lottery because
so clarify for them, you couldn't make a straight bet in Canada.
You couldn't make a straight bet, and this is when I was a kid. This is how we gambled, because gambling there was no legal gambling. There was some online places that most people didn't trust, so we would bet using this sports lottery where you'd have to do either a minimum of a 3-team parlay. You can add more if you want, or a minimum of a 4-team round robin. And I used to bet the round robins in the NHL hockey playoffs, and they'd give you 5-1 odds on a tie, and a tie would be any game that goes to overtime. Yeah. And $5 tickets would pay out $500 if you would cash 3 in a row. And on a round robin, if you just hit 3 of the 4, a $20 ticket would pay out about $500. If you hit 4 out of 4, it would pay out about $2,500. And I'd spend $100 a week or so as a kid on these tickets, and I must have cashed $5,000 worth, which at the time resulted in a pretty good party for me and my friends.
Absolutely. But, again, I want to make it clear, neither one of us are advocating for parlays, guys. It's as big as sucker bet. But if you're there's a big difference between just a 2-team or 3-team parlay or 4-team parlay and a round robin. As long as you, again, if we're using the 2x3, for example, that's 3 2-teamers, you don't add the 3-teamer in there as well. Then you defeat the whole purpose. Secondly, if you're going to use a round robin, I want to clarify even further. If indeed you're red hot, like I gave you the example, and you got 3 plays you really love, and you're up quite a bit of money, either for the week or over the month or just on a roll in general, stay away from round robins where you're including a money line of greater than -110. So a lot of times, to me, again, your payoffs, what I mean by that is if you got a -120, a -130, and a -150 in baseball, you're not, even if you hit 2 out of 3, you're going to be lucky to break even. Okay. It works the best when you're using point spreads or money line of -110 or less, whatever the case may be, in terms of making a profit on 2 of 3. So we spent way too much time on that, but I'm glad it was brought up. Dustin Sullivan, will you continue the live show into MLB season? That's debatable right now. Dustin, we're probably, off the top of my head and without any definitive answer, probably not. Okay. We're probably going to take a break on the live show until August, when we start ramping up with baseball, or excuse me, with football season on the horizon. Now it's not concrete, but it's up for further discussion. But don't be shocked if we do take a pause for a little while when it comes to the live shows. All right, next question, please, if we can. Friday.
Jim did say he wanted us to wrap it up and just take a couple more.
All right,
one or two more questions.
Okay, 2 more questions, please, if we can. I'm seeing Mariners have good chances of winning the World Series.
He must be watching a different Mariners team than me.
Yeah, well, Mariners have the Marlins getting their first win. Well,
okay. It makes more sense as you.
Ninja, always a pleasure to hear from you, my friend. And then any other. I bet soccer and baseball more than any sports. I love the run lines in baseball. And that's coming from Bravo Commander. And Jesse bets soccer, and he's very good at it. And baseball more than any other sports. I love the run lines in baseball. Yeah, I wouldn't
follow my language.
Yeah, I wouldn't fall in love with any aspects of the run lines, but in terms of using it all the time, I wouldn't advise that. You could love you can enjoy that aspect of betting. In other words, it gives you a thrill to bet run lines, but at the end of the day, it's about making money, folks. You know what I mean? So don't fall in love with just one aspect of betting in a particular sport, for example, like baseball.
I mean, I love betting unders, but that doesn't mean I won't bet overs.
Yeah, exactly right. So, all right, well, we're going to wrap it up here, and it's sorry that we couldn't be joined by Mr. Higgs, who lost power in the great state of Texas. And I'm sure that Sean will tell us all about that when he rejoins us on Tuesday, because that will be part of his problem of the day segment. And if you've been missing those, folks, you've been missing a lot, because Sean finds a problem every day to discuss with us. In any event, one problem we're not going to have is me and Jesse have our final 4 selections up at the website right now at gamblersworld.net. Again, reminding you folks, Major League Baseball, $349. We'll take you right through the All-Star break. $6.99 will get you right through the World Series, whatever you choose. And also keep in mind that the NBA is going on right now. The final 2 weeks of the regular season, plus the playoffs, are on the horizon. We'll be back on Monday with Chip Chirimbus and Doug Upstone on Monday. Tuesday, Jesse and Sean will return, and then the regular schedule as such. And as of right now, folks, we will have a live show next Friday, and we'll keep you up to date on the developments there. So for Jesse Schule and Ross Benjamin, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, folks. It's gamblersworld.net. You'll see a subscribe button right underneath your video box, or if you're on your PC, a WC logo in the bottom right-hand corner of your video box. Just click on that. Absolutely free to do so. And then go into your YouTube settings and take an extra second to click on the alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel. You'll be notified immediately upon any of our podcasts going up on our channel. And Jesse, there's a like button underneath. It's real important that the folks know what to do with that like button because it goes a long way with our sponsor.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. And again, for Jesse and Ross, take care and God bless, folks.